It's either 5 or 7.
Yeah, this is a planning meeting of Township of Franklin on March the 24th at 7 p.m. Please rise for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Jennifer, will you open for the meeting statement, please?
Notice of this meeting has been given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act and the annual notice of meetings. A copy was posted on the township website, and notice of this meeting was sent to the Sentinel, and a copy was posted at the Franklin Township Municipal Building.
Okay, thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Constantine? Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Mr. Milady?
Yes.
Mr. Rinson?
Yes.
Mr. Cahoot?
Yes.
Mr. Sweet?
Yes.
Mr. Travaglione?
Yes.
And Mr. Pesh?
Yes. Thank you.
How are you going to see first?
We'll do resolutions this evening. The minutes of February 21st. Is that was submitted electronically? Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
Make a motion.
And the motion?
Second the motion.
And a second. All in favor? Aye. Michael, to you, please.
I think you next have on the agenda the public portion. You're doing that now, or?
Now let's skip. Let's move down to the housing element first, so that we get that out of the way.
So the housing element, there is public notice for that for a public hearing tonight. I have a conflict because I own property within 200 feet of some of these properties, so I would not be able to participate, just so you know.
Okay.
I apologize for not having somebody else here, but I didn't know about this till later last week, and sort of hard to get land use attorneys out on the night. So we're gonna have to, if you want somebody to give you legal advice, we'll need to have somebody come out. If you want to proceed without it, that's up to you.
Okay. Just I'm not comfortable, I'll leave it up to the board. I'm not comfortable without having, because this is attached to a lawsuit, I'm not really comfortable doing a presentation without having legal representation here. So I think we would postpone it, give the correct legal terms if we wanted to wait for a conflict attorney.
Yeah, I'll have to have the township, we'll have to get somebody, because technically I shouldn't find the person if I have the conflict. So I have to get the township to find someone who's available for one of our meeting nights. I think you should notice again, frankly. It's a pretty important issue. Notice, I think the only notice that costs any money is the one in the paper, the rest are by email.
Okay.
So you're not talking about a significant cost. I think you're better off redoing the notice just to dot your i's and cross your t's if you're going to do that.
They'll redo that.
That's no problem to redo the notice.
Is the board in agreement? Can we postpone and make sure we have legal representation?
Let's do it in the form of a motion, okay?
Chairman, I'll make that motion to table.
Okay, motion to table, is there a second? Second. Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Jennifer, would you notify the township administrator that Mike is conflicted and we need a conflict attorney to be present, and we should renotice when that hearing is going to take place?
Okay.
Land use, Jen.
Land use.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's the reason I wanted to move the agenda around so that during the public portion it wasn't there was no confusion. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to open the meeting to the public.
Make a motion.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
One public portion if anyone wishes to approach.
We can't talk about the thing. We're not talking about this there.
Good evening.
If it's about the fair housing piece of it, I'd rather not talk about it tonight without having.
I just wanted to actually thank you for.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to thank you for postponing that until there is legal representation.
Okay.
Because my questions, I'll just kind of tell you what they are, and I don't expect answers, have to do with the folks who live in this overlay district. I'm assuming a lot of them might not be aware that their properties are in this district, so I had questions about what kind of ramifications that has on their land use going forward. I'm assuming there's no, and nobody should answer me, that there's no deed restriction or anything, but, you know, my legal questions have to do with how that's going to affect them and the potential to use their land for some other purposes at another date, and whether we'd have to insert a different property if that were to happen.
I'm not going to say about a specific property, but the way it's been override doesn't change the zoning.
Right.
So if you're zoned RA, you're still zoned RA, you're still afforded all those uses.
Okay.
You would just have the optional use of a higher density if you so choose. So it doesn't eliminate, or it gives a landowner another option. It doesn't take away any options.
Yeah. I think some are LM too, so
Yeah, it
obviously it doesn't change
zone.
that.
It would just, it's called an overlay, just an additional use.
I'm assuming at some point they would be notified that, you know, that they're in this.
We're not going to answer that. I'm not difficult. Because it involves a lawsuit, I have to make sure that we're doing it right.
These are just my questions, so when you get a conflict attorney, and I appreciate that you did postpone it and that you'll have it another night, so these can be answered. My only concern is for the residents themselves.
And we'll be noticing at a future date.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Public portion already, Jeff?
Kevin, I move on, you're just kind of facing on, Kevin. I don't know.
Not tonight.
I guess we're talking about
Right, you know what, Kevin, let me jump in here for 1 second. If it's about affordable housing, Michael has a conflict. The board has determined to postpone that hearing.
Okay.
And we'll renotice once we have representation by a conflict attorney. It's too important, and it's the whole piece involves litigation, so we'll make sure we do it right. Nobody's up here is answering questions with regards to that without an attorney tonight.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is I just received the plan. It's very extensive. I don't know, I guess I could ask the board this question. Did everybody read through the entire plan?
Mike, I'm sorry, Kevin.
No. Okay, so
Hold that, it's a legitimate question.
I was just wondering why, I just got it yesterday and it was going to be very unsafe, but you're telling me it's not, and I'm good with
Hold
it.
that question to, we'll certainly entertain it. I don't it's not an attempt to be difficult. I just got to do it right.
Yeah, and the community, give the community a chance to review the document.
We got at least a month to read it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
Real quick question.
Sure.
I'd just like you to explain, because I just caught this on Facebook.
Okay.
I'd like somebody to explain to me what it's all about. I mean, that's something you guys can answer. That's not a legal thing, right? You can explain it. Other people might not know what it's about. What's the lawsuit?
Obviously, we all know about the Mount Laurel, affordable housing in Mount Laurel and the state requirements. So the township, I'll use myself as an example. The 6 years I was involved with the township committee, I was involved with a federal building lawsuit, and the town has gone and produced a plan to the courts that will allow a period of time, I believe it's 2 years, 2-3 years, allow a time of a freeze where we got a grace period. Here's a plan. If we get this and this, we'll do this and this, and it kind of puts everything on hold. So that's our objective is to make sure that the plan coincides with the master plan. So why is this done? Because it's protection from another federal lawsuit from a another builder remedy lawsuit that was extremely expensive. Like I said, when I was involved with 6 years on the township committee. So this is protecting the town in the future. And basically the planning board's job is to make sure that the plan coincides with the master plan. And that's kind of a very generic explanation. We have an attorney that's conflicted, and like I said, because we want to do it right, we want to make sure we have an attorney that can address any questions.
Joe, you said, I'm sorry, federal lawsuit you just brought up?
Well, the Socket lawsuit, which is a big lawsuit, was mayor and council, we were involved in a federal lawsuit at that time, probably 10 years now, right, Mark?
Well, this affects every town in the state. It's a state mandate.
This is not something
It has nothing to do with federal, does it?
The one he's talking about, but that's not.
we're sued federally. It's a state mandate, and we're sued in federal court.
Right, but this particular fair share boondoggle, this is state.
New Jersey,
Right.
it's a New Jersey thing.
Look up the Mount Laurel decision.
I'm familiar with
It's protecting us from a future a future big lawsuit. Protects the town from having to go through it again. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, my name's Len Trush. I live on Frosville Road. I'm in that zone. All right, I was notified of that. And I'm here for the same reason that this gentleman's here, just to get a Cliff Notes version of what the hell has got going on, the history of it, what can we do about it, if anything. And to me, just reading through it, it all seems like if we don't have water, I don't know how you're going to build these. If we don't have water, like, what's the chances of us having water in Franklinville? City water.
You don't want water.
I mean, if we don't get city water, none of this is going to happen. Like my wife's like, we're on moving.
It's not impossible, but it doesn't make it affordable housing at that point.
How do you build an apartment complex?
Exactly.
You don't.
So are they forcing us to build a water treatment facility?
Right, we have to address our requirements by having a plan in place if there's water and sewer.
So we have to have a plan, we don't have to necessarily.
So if we don't have a plan, what Joe was explaining about the builder remedy suit, if we don't have a plan, a builder can come to town
And sue
and
us.
sue us.
Right.
And turn us into Williamstown, basically.
Right.
Okay, so by having complying to the plan, we're protected from that lawsuit. So following the plan actually protects you from overdevelopment, which is kind of confusing, but that's the process.
So I was right about the water, right? If we.
Yes, without water.
Come in and it's time to go. Okay. All right, thank you.
Jason.
Good evening, Jason Brandt, 688 Rosemont Avenue. I just want to clarify something possibly, I know Mike can't chime in on this, but hopefully Chris can. And I don't know the exact dates, but the portion of this plan, which is considered the fair share portion, is the result of a settlement agreement between the township and the Fair Share Housing Center, correct? Yes. And that agreement was reached sometime in the summer of 2022.
Yeah, I think it said May.
Okay. After that agreement was reached, that settlement was made public along with the maps, the overlay maps identifying the parcels to have the overlay district, along with model ordinances, so on and so forth. And all of that information was made public and was open. The courts allowed the case to remain open, I could be saying that incorrectly, to allow for public comment on the matter, correct?
I don't know specifically about court making comments or the court making it public, but yes, the settlement agreement was reached either May or June, and I think
Documents dated May.
and then June or July, that settlement agreement was discussed at this board, and to put it simply, everything in this, the 275 pages of this housing plan is taken directly from that settlement agreement, and these exact parcels are all shown on those maps from nearly a year ago.
So there was an open public comment period with the court master.
With the court, I don't know how that works. I'm not an attorney, and Mike can't comment on this.
Right.
I wasn't involved. I don't know that it's an open public process, that the litigation, or not even litigation at this point, it's the settlement between Fair Share Housing Center and the township on how they will address their affordable housing obligations, which is through the Fair Housing Act and that's a state requirement. And the courts have approved of that settlement, and this is part of that settlement. I don't know the degree to which the settlement process is a public process.
I'll liken it to, you're familiar with when the DEP does rule changes,
Yes.
they leave the matter open for public comment. You follow what I'm saying? Like, this year,
I don't think that applies here. I don't think the courts do that. They might, but I honestly.
well, slightly, I mean, I won't disagree completely with you, but there was a document that was made public that had the information, and I'm going to use the term court master. That could be an incorrect term, but there was an individual that was involved in the case, whether they were working for the Fair Share Housing Center or someone else, that was soliciting public comment regarding the plan prior to a certain date.
Okay,
So, you know,
yeah, the court master who is appointed to basically be the
Right.
special expert because the judges aren't themselves necessarily experts in affordable housing.
Right.
Was Mary Beth Lonergan of Clark Hayden Hints, and she is the court master for about a third of.
that could be. My point being that there was a time and a place in order for the public to comment on this plan, and that apparently, you know, unfortunately, that time and place has come and passed. So I don't think anyone should be coming here saying that they haven't had an opportunity to review the plan or comment on it, or somehow be shocked that, you know, that the township is now moving to actually proceed in accordance with the settlement agreement. So I just wanted to make that clear for everybody in case there was some ambiguity. So, right, thank you.
Very true. Thanks, Jason.
Why is that true, Joe? What he just said?
Because there was a
The
process.
town, the community that is going to be 100% affected by this has not commented on this, other than maybe the board may have been privy to this settlement with the Fair Share Housing Corporation, but not the community that's going to 100% affect this whole town, especially Malaga and Franklinville. So how can we not have that opportunity to review what we just received yesterday?
Why? Because here's why, because we're postponing it until a future date to allow it. I don't know, back in July when this came out and the agreement was out, I don't know why that was broadcasted. I don't remember.
You gotta remember, this isn't like an ordinance or something that came up with, it's called a mandate. It's like a gas tax, you can't go to the gas station and debate how much you're gonna pay. It was a mandate, it started off as 1,000 houses almost, and we negotiated that down through the rules as much as we could. And that's how you end up here. It wasn't anybody's idea or plan, and we didn't have a heck of a lot of say in it either. It's a mandate.
Right, and of course, so I don't know if the document was out in July or not. I'm not sure.
Mike,
I can't. Mike's conflicted, he was probably up against it.
Mr. Chairman, I think we should move forward. We got a motion here, and I think everybody should be notified again, and everybody, if they want to come up and speak, that's fine. We need a motion here.
I also wanted to clarify that any individual property owner whose property is affected by the overlay received a certified letter notifying them of such.
Right.
Prior to
That part has not taken place yet.
that, there's a gentleman right there that received the I just confirmed.
I didn't realize the town actually did that. That's.
Yeah, it says certified letter notifying them of that portion that they can comment on. So, because somebody mentioned something about, you know, property owners not knowing, and I read that had taken place, and I just confirmed with one of the property owners that they did in fact, they got personal news that their properties were going to be affected by it. Thank you.
Back in July, I was not sure if it was or wasn't.
They were in that 200 feet, I believe.
Yeah, at a minimum, the actual parcels received notice, you know, can't confirm or deny within 200 feet.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
Just real quick, sorry I came a little late. I was told that we're postponing this portion, so a lot of my questions I was going to ask, so don't worry about that.
Hold on, I think we have to reword them. We'll have an opportunity another time.
First, primarily, I wanted to come up here and just to apologize to Chairman Pesh for my behavior last month. Got into a little bit of a shouting match, and that's never a good thing.
We're good.
So I just wanted to apologize for my behavior. I don't want to venture too much into, because I have this whole little list of questions that I want, and unfortunately a lot of them are legal questions, so of course, I'm not there. I do have, hopefully this isn't too much of a legal question, because I know a lot of people say that, there's nothing we could do, it's mandated state housing, this is an agreement, a settlement that we had. But I just wanted to know if any of you gentlemen were aware that there's 13 municipalities who are suing Governor Murphy to try and force him to reenact the defunct Keller Board that used to make this policy. They were trying to do this because they're tired of having this whole program run by the Fair Share Housing Center and the justice system. And I was just curious to see, I know obviously there's only a few committee members, so this might be more of a pertinent question for the committee, but if anybody on the committee, if they say they're pushed, they're, dragged, kicking and screaming to do these things, if they would be willing to fight with these other municipalities in the suit.
Two answers. I also, moving forward, that's a question for the township committee to determine whether or not they want to litigate it. Moving back, over my 6-year tender at that point in time, I had every thought. I was a big advocate of frivolous lawsuits, going after people who sued the town only because they had deep pockets. I also was in favor of that, and the attorneys advised, don't do it. Don't do it. So, that, to your question, that's more of a township committee question at this point, because they're really making the decision to pursue.
Yeah, and again, from my understanding, they're not trying to sue to get this, to replace the 99 to 25 requirements. It's more after 25 with the future requirements, just so that there can be a clear system for all you guys, kind of take the heat off you guys.
I think nobody's been successful yet, and I would assume that probably every one of those towns is in the process, like we're entering.
Yeah.
But they're looking for relief.
Yeah.
So it's not that they're saying no, they're saying okay, but change it.
Yeah, change the system.
Yeah, and so the best thing to do would be take that list of questions and email them to the administrator.
Okay.
Because we don't have a lawyer here, and honestly, there's a separate lawyer handling this, and none of us are experts. We'll send that list right to them and get legal answers.
Okay, and I do have copies of the questions I was going to ask tonight, for everybody, if anybody's interested in them, if they want to,
Send me more.
Yeah, okay, no problem. It's because I plan on asking it next month unless I think of other questions, but, just other things, because I read through the report and I just saw all the different data and I just wanted to ask a few questions. No gotcha questions, just everything. I just was concerned about, certain things, and unfortunately a lot of them are legal, but hopefully I'll hold my fire until next month, though. But thank you, gentlemen, I appreciate your time. Oh, yeah, sure, I'll be at the end of this.
Thank you. Anything else?
You want me to approach, or am I loud enough?
No, come on, here. It's in the microphone.
Want yourself on TV.
Dave Marshall, 67 New Road, Malaga. And it's, again, I don't hold my questions till later, but I do have a quick question for you, Mr. Borelli. You had said you just found out 10 days ago that you have a conflict because of where you live. If this was in June, why did you just find out?
In June, no, I found out that we had the public hearing, I just found out, I think on Thursday.
Right.
So that was a little bit late to try to find somebody, and really wasn't up to me to be able to find someone, so.
Well, no, I understand, but the reason I was asking is if all this information came out in June, which I was unaware of at that point, I know it's been going on, but the actual report, I didn't see it just recently. I just didn't know why you didn't know that at the time to find somebody. And I'm not faulting you, you just received it.
I believe when you realized it was going to be on the agenda.
Okay.
Once you found out, Thursday was on the agenda.
We're getting dates from judges on this.
Right, no, I understand. It's
Actually, court hearing on Friday.
To clarify, the settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing Center was last year. The actual housing plan report that is on the agenda for tonight wasn't finished until March 7th or 8th. And after, once it was finished is when we kind of placed on the agenda.
Because we're going to be in court on Friday.
I understand it's a mess. I mean, the whole thing's a mess. And we got to do. I'm not throwing anybody for that, but I'm just trying to figure out what was it is, because we just got it, and then according to Jason, we're not going to have a chance to really make much of an impact anyway, because we're supposed to have known about it, but yet it just happened a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
So it's a little conflict from what he said and what I'm understanding. Am I correct?
Well, everything that was in his report was in other documents. It's basically been
It was all,
put together.
this is a capsulized report.
Right. This is the one where the public has access to it to view it easier than trying to go through those agendas.
I don't know how much influence was available. Like I said, it's not like a normal thing like we could debate. It's
I've gone through the last 3 years of meetings, and I got about 12 pages of this
287-page report that I could find for each meeting, so there was no much near enough to get any type of a decision together on questions on that. So that's why I'm just trying to figure out how we aren't allowed to make, or possibly make an impact according to what Jason said. So I'm just looking for clarification on that.
We'll have to get, the process, we'll have to get the advice from the lawyer.
Yeah, I'm just,
That's really why we want to.
I understand, I'm not trying to put him in the spot, I just want to make sure we're open.
A lot of the report are exhibits, and a lot of them are little documents that eat up a lot of it. It's 247 pages.
So, you know
someone, and most of it's legal.
No, it's a mess.
Right. So that's why you didn't see anything probably in when you went back to review meeting minutes. You're not going to see that.
No, actually, I found 12 pages that reference things in that report. 12 pages aren't enough to make my decision as a public and what questions to ask. It's impossible.
Not to tell anybody that you shouldn't read the report. If you want to read it front to back, back to front, upside down 5 times, you go ahead and prepare any questions you want. Essentially what this is, there's about 5 pages of substance in here, and the rest is just documents required by the court. And I will say, you guys are getting off easy. This one's 275 pages. I prepared Evesham Township's master or housing plan also up in Burlington County, where they had an obligation of over 1,000. I think there was 1,700 pages of appendices in that document.
I found 3 other ones that were over 2,000 pages. You know, they're unbelievable. And everybody's having a
The majority of it is deeds to properties that are already affordable units. A 30-page deed for each unit saying that it's a deed restricted unit for 30 years at such and such address. But by law, we have to include all of it as an appendix to the housing plan.
Wow. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not trying to put him on the spot. I just want to make sure we have time to go through it. That was all. Thank you.
Thanks. One follow-up here. He came up and he said that somebody got certified letters. And how did he get a certified letter when the plan just came out on Thursday? How did he get certified letters, get notified that his property was part of this?
The zone was done, I believe, in May, the overlay.
You probably got that letter in the summer, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% positive that it was certified. I know I got a letter. I think it was certified, but I'm not sure.
I thought it had to be certified.
Okay, well, I'm not the lawyer here, but I do know land use law and planning law. Okay, so right now this would be the master plan, which recommends changes to the zoning ordinance. The actual ordinance to change any zoning has not even been introduced by the committee yet. Once the committee introduces it, technically speaking, if something is recommended directly in the master plan, they don't have to send notice to individual property owners. They can if they want, and it sounds like it probably would be a good idea for the committee to do that. It's not that many property owners, it wouldn't be terribly difficult. Then they would be getting a certified mail after it's introduced, letting them know when the committee would be adopting the ordinance. The certified mailings that went out for this, for a master plan, it's the local paper has to be notified 10 days in advance, the county planning board has to get sent a copy, the Pinelands gets sent a copy, and the state gets sent a copy. So I don't believe that any individual property owners were individually noticed for this particular plan. If they did, then that's something above and beyond that the township would have done. And frankly, since no zoning actually changed or took place, if they did that last year, that was above and beyond what's required by law as well.
Can I ask you, engineer, are you Christopher?
Yes.
In your report, how come you didn't include the maps or overlay maps?
I'm sorry?
It's in there.
All the maps are Appendix G.
Oh, okay.
I do have copies of the overlay maps. 274 pages of every one set.
It's all right with the postponed case. The engineer about a question in one of the appendixes.
I'll tell you for crossing the line.
Okay, appendix out.
It's only good till 25.
The last page. Section 4. You have libraries that applications will be at. You have Newfield Public Library, but you don't have Franklin Township Library.
Okay,
I have a concern about that. Newfield's not out of town yet.
You shouldn't be part of your own stuff. If you're a camera guy.
And the next page in front of that, you have listed advertising in Gloucester County Times. Gloucester County Times ceased publication in 2012. It should be,
This was taken from a model document for Gloucester County.
my concern is it's incorrect.
Okay.
The current name of the publication is South Jersey Title Survey. Just when it's get approved, just want to keep it clean. Thank you, gentlemen.
So no one else at this time, I entertain a motion to close the public portion.
I make a motion.
Motion, second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, now we'll go back to you. No need for a closed session, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else to bring up this evening? I do. You do? Yeah. What would you like to bring up, Mr. Kelly?
So I want to talk about, what's about the whole redevelopment. I want to bring up the redevelopment zone and the issues that surround that. And I want to just give a little background. There are 3 parcels in this area that was to be considered in the redevelopment zone. Number 1 being the Thousand Land. Everybody's familiar with that piece. That's the most familiar to everybody. That's the piece that was for sale for a number of years. People came in, expressed interest. No deals ever got done. And then another investor came in middle of last year, inquired about developing it, wanted to know what sort of property incentives there are available. Abatements are always one, and pilots are another. So no matter what offer the pilot, you have to then declare the property of the development zone. Orders were then given to do a study, to ask CME to do the study and see if this property fit the state criteria to be declared a development zone. My issues that I want to ask Mr. Borelli to do this. I want Mr. Borelli to write out an email to the Township Committee asking for an explanation as to where the other 2 parcels came from. The Thousand Land, as I said, is no surprise to anybody. But there were 2 other pieces of land that was to be considered for redevelopment. And I'm not so sure that we really understand what was the source of that, where did that come from, why was that part of the overall study? That's the first part of my request. The second part is, if the board is ever asked to do that again, that we are given clear information as to where that request comes from. So if we're asked to look at another piece of property that's going to be considered for redevelopment, why? Why is it being asked to be considered? What is the potential projects, or what are the potential opportunities available if those areas are declared as redevelopment zones? So I would like Mr. Borelli to do that, because that's something that you can do.
Jim, I can do, but I only can do it if the whole body.
Okay.
I can't do it.
So, Jim, is that in the form of a motion?
So then if that's the way to go,
I'll second that, Mike.
then yeah, that's what I want.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Objection? All right. Anything else?
Do we need to discuss our revisiting the master plan, on who the committee is?
Are you reading my notes?
Are you reading my notes? You said anything else?
Okay. I asked Michael to review, knowing that the master plan review was coming up, I asked Michael to review the legal piece of it today, and Michael, you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, the basic process is that you have a master plan in place. You're required by municipal land use law to re-examine it every 10 years.
Okay.
So this is our
That's, please give me the difference between a total rewrite that we did, a number of years ago, and a review, and the difference between the 2 and what are we required now to do, so that there's no confusion.
Right, so you have a master plan, so you're not developing a new one, you're re-examining it, as you're required to do. You have to have a re-examination report prepared. That report has to cover certain areas, something like a half a dozen items listed in the statute. And we won't recite them, but essentially what you're doing is you're taking a look at your old master plan, looking at those goals and objectives, and seeing what you've achieved, what you haven't, why that might have happened or not happened, looking at what's changed as far as your demographics, what areas seem to need attention because you've been getting more applications about something, less applications about something else. Take all those factors into consideration and determine whether you need to make changes to your master plan. So if after that examination is done and the report comes out, it could say, no need to change anything, then you're done. Everything's fine, the whole master plan is good, we're happy. Or you find out that there are things that need to be changed, new objectives, new goals, new ordinances, whatever. And there's a list of areas that the master plan covers, such as fair housing, there's many of them. So if you determine that there is a need to make some changes, then at that point you're doing a amended master plan. So then you start preparing that amendment to the master plan. The planning board prepares that with the help of their professionals. The next thing you would do is do a tentative approval of the amendment to the master plan. You do a tentative approval at the same time you set a public hearing date. So you say this amendment to the master plan looks good, we'll set a hearing date or whatever, then the notices all go out. You have the public hearing. Based upon that, you then approve a final amendment to the master plan. And then it goes through the process, of course, of being published and noticed and so on. So that's in a nutshell the process.
So, Mike, what does that document look like then? In other words, when you talk about an amendment, so let's say there's an amendment. So you have the amendment document that will go through and cite the initial sections of the master plan and say, this section's deleted and replaced in full or in part by the following. And then does that amendment then get attached to a redlined initial master plan so that you can look at the old document and see what's been crossed out?
The old document will always be there. I don't know. In the process, yes. Not once it's done, you wouldn't necessarily have the tool.
Like a contract, you go through the well line, you put the changes in there.
I would say typically no. I really just sent a draft of a master plan re-exam to another town yesterday. It's basically the 6 things that need to be re-examined. As Mike just said, first it's basically you state what the goals and objectives and recommendations and assumptions were from the previous master plan, which in your case, I think your master plan was maybe 2004 or 2007, and then you had your last re-exam was in 2013. So it'd be basically the same thing as your current master plan re-exam. You go through what were the goals and objectives and policy assumptions from the original master plan. You state what they were, and then you state whether or not those remain valid goals or objectives or policy assumptions. And then you go through, all right, well, what has changed in terms of have you adopted any ordinances? What's changed around you? How is the town growing? Is it not growing? What has changed in terms of state laws so it impacted your development plan for the future? And you make a determination as to whether or not the goals from your old master plans, whether you want to stay the course or you want to make any changes. And it's not necessarily taking the old plan and striking things out. It's making recommendations of where the plan might need to change more. So in many cases, it's
you can let it go back to the original plan and
references to the it's not the zoning ordinance itself where we're taking the.
I understand how an amendment would be written, but what I'm saying is that a lot of contracts that I see, right, you'll have an amendment to the underlying document, right? That amendment will contain all of the changes that you're changing from the underlying document, and then I'll see that amendment attached or part of a bigger document, which includes the original master plan redline. So the two tied together. What you're saying is that's not how you've seen them, but is that because?
That's the first one to ever do it that way, but I don't.
Well, there's no reason why you couldn't do that, right?
We could, I suppose, if that's what the town wanted to do.
I mean, it's very clear. It shows exactly what you're doing. I mean, it sets it out in the amendment what the changes are, and then you go back. You go back to that. It's part of the original master plan. You go through the agreement, and those sections are all redlined.
To put it this way.
You said for the final draft?
Contract.
No, the draft is not a regular contract. Right, you negotiate it. Maybe you have to take over the red line out. You can do an amendment, like you can amend it as you go through it, and list all the things that are in fact. And it's like an amendment, but the end result, I don't think you can.
The exam report itself wouldn't be listing out the old master plan. It's literally just a bulleted list of the goals and objectives and stating whether or not they're still valid. And then if you choose to, after you do the master plan re-exam, you can amend the master plan. And that, I've never seen it done this way, but it could be done as in taking the old master plan itself from 2004 and going through and redlining and adding in new stuff. That, I don't think there's anything in the law that would prevent you from doing it that way.
No, not adding the new stuff, just redlining out what's been changed.
That's one approach. I've never seen it done, but it could be done if that's the way the town wants to do it.
I mean, I would go with it, but it's what I'm used to seeing in major redos of contracts.
Okay, well, I don't know that contracts are necessarily the most appropriate comparison here, because this is a guiding document rather than a contractual agreement. If it was the zoning ordinance itself, that's the way it's usually done, yes, but this is the master plan that just states what you want to see in your zoning
Right,
ordinance.
but it's still a document.
It's a quasi-legal document. The master plan itself has no force of law, but it has to inform the zoning ordinance. Your zoning ordinance has to be consistent with your master plan. But the master plan itself is not necessarily a legal document.
Okay. And of course, I understand what Jimmy's trying to do is this and this, and that is one cleanup document. I'm fine with that. The purpose of bringing it up is we're up against, it's time to start that. If the board's in agreement, what I think I'd like to do is the first step is to actually through Jen to the administrator is to put a public notice out that we're asking for volunteers. Now, obviously, it's not going to be 100 people. The last one, I believe, was probably 10 or 12 people, but a diverse group. Let's start with people of interest that could contact the administrator or Jen or some contact point at the township to get started with a committee. Obviously, the engineer would be a key piece of this, but a group that would be able to sit down and the group needs to be diverse. Now, it's not going to be, can't be, it's not going to, it's technically difficult to have a gigantic number, but if anyone who is interested, I think at this point, what should we use as a contact point? Matt, the administrator? Yes. People who are interested, contact the administrator of your interest. Now, obviously, we have a plan. We have a plan issue, but also, I would like to see if we can get the clerk, if the township committee is agreeable to get the clerk to put a public announcement out there that the master plan review is forming, the master plan review is forming a committee, and if you're interested, have the public respond to that, and then we'll try to get individuals from each interest within the town.
I think it would be easier to send it to Barbara.
Okay. All right. That's what we will. John, would you take care of that? Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to mention, Jen, last month when we talked about putting the planning committee together, I had given my name to Rosemary. I'm not sure where that went, but since she's not here, so I just want to make sure that you mark it down.
Okay.
Jen, I think the proper language is called the Master Plan Advisory Committee. That's the actual name. I have a newspaper article in front of me dated June of 2004.
Is there a picture in this?
In the obituaries. Anyway. So in here, in 2004, it was a major rebuild of the master plan, and we had 18 people on the advisory committee. But this, of course, is a smaller thing, so I think it would be safe to say that we will not have more than 18 people total. Is that
fair? So that's what I said, it wasn't kind of thing, we're not dealing with 50 people type of thing. It's less important about who, it's more important about having diversity across the town, environmental, economical, so everyone is able to bring something to the table from their expertise. Is everybody's okay with that? Yes. You agree it? We're good? Okay. Can you take care of that for me, please? All right. Anybody have anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to second, all in favor? Aye. All right, thank you everyone for coming out.